Hello, thank you for taking time out. This video is on the Nakshatra of Jyestha, which falls entirely in the sign of Scorpio. And as per mythology, it's ruled by Lord Indra. Lord Indra, as per mythology, is the eldest son of Goddess Aditi in Sage Kashyap. Goddess Aditi, if you recall, is ruling the Nakshatra Punarvasu. So the son of Goddess Aditi, or the sons of Goddess Aditi rather, they are known as the Adityas, they reside in the heavens, and the eldest son is Lord Indra. Since he's the eldest, he's also given the responsibility of protecting the heavens. He is the king of heavens. So naturally the first thing about Jyestha is leadership and kingship. Lord Indra is mentioned in the Rig Veda many times as someone very powerful, fierce, bold, possessing 1,000 powers. He's known for his not only physical strength but also mental prowess. He is the protector of the gods and the destroyer of evil. And in the process of protection, he's known to have defeated the most demonic of demons. One of them was known as Vrata. He is known to wield, Lord Indra, a thunderbolt known by the name Vajra, which is known to possess 1,000 edges, which are symbolic of his no mercy policy on the battlefield. Lord Indra would do everything possible to defend, to protect the gods. So the gods rely on Lord Indra for protection. That would also be seen in the native's character. Firstly, the native would strive to occupy the most senior-most position in the society, and then would find oneself having others relying on the native for protection, for inspiration. Lord Indra is known for his benevolence. He's known to distribute the treasures of his kingdom equally amongst the members of the kingdom. That gives us an insight into the character of Lord Indra and the character, more importantly, of a Jyestha native. Lord Indra is known to possess piercing logic and is known for one's strategic planning. It's an opportune time for me to introduce that this nakshatra is ruled by Mercury, which signifies intelligence, and furthermore it falls in the sign ruled by Mars. Mars is known to be a solver of complicated problems, and Mercury, since it signifies intelligence, is always behind solving difficult issues through logic and analysis, which explains Jyestha native's character as someone who possesses logic which is going to be unparalleled and is going to be an excellent strategic planner. A talisman is considered one of the main symbols of this nakshatra, and that's because Lord Indra is known to be wearing one. And this symbolizes the magical powers Lord Indra possesses. Those powers not only are due to him, but also due to the blessings of other gods he's protecting. So he has this ability to create an illusion to defeat demons, leaving the demons spellbound, firstly encircling them through strategic planning, and then defeating them by creating an illusion. The native is going to fight for one's position and is going to be excellent at doing so. So naturally you'll understand all kinds of leaders in the society, whether they are political leaders, military leaders, or in the business sector. In the business sector, it's all about making sure your market share continues to grow, making sure you are doing better than your opponents. And the Jyestha native also would love to live life king size. Native would be very attracted to the materialistic pleasures of life. Like in one of those movies we see the main character driving a fancy car through beautiful landscapes. That is how I imagine a Jyestha native to be. Talisman that Lord Indra is wearing is also symbolic of Lord Indra's knowledge of ancient sciences. He's known to have passed on the knowledge of Ayurveda. There's another aspect to Lord Indra's character, and that is to do with him falling prey to ego. And therefore the Jyestha native may also be blinded by success, and due to that the native may not acknowledge the work done by others. As a team, the native may become power hungry and may want to be the only one taking credit for the accomplishments, so falling prey to envy and getting into ego battles might be part of the native's life. And earlier I'd mentioned the native can be driven by materialistic pleasures. The native can also fall prey to substance abuse. As per mythology, Lord Indra is known to rely on Soma, the nectar of immortality, which I'd explained in the Nakshatra of Mrigashira. Now, due to Lord Indra's ability to create an illusion, accompanied by Lord Indra's strategic planning, this nakshatra belongs to the caste of an artist, a creative person. And here, creativity would lie in innovation. I think the native would be excellent at finding a solution. No matter how complicated the problem, the native would find a solution. Mercury and Mars are ruling the nakshatra and sign respectively, combined with Lord Indra's mental prowess. Now, it shouldn't be of any surprise to you that this nakshatra has the nature of Tikshna, which translates to sharp and pointed. Go back to Vajra, the thunderbolt used by Lord Indra. This explains this classification, this nature. And I'd mentioned Lord Indra has a no mercy policy. Lord Indra can even turn vindictive when challenged, which explains why this nakshatra has a demonic temperament. But Lord Indra is the king of the heavens. He's known for his generosity, and therefore this nakshatra has the Guna, the quality belonging to Satvik, selflessness. The classification of Jyestha explains what Jyestha is all about. A few examples that might help us understand Jyestha better. King Charles has the ruler of his career house, Mars, in Jyestha. Isn't that a great example? I'd mentioned Jyestha to be all about leadership and kingship. In his case, I also find his rising to be Pushya and Saturn to be in Magha. Pushya and Magha also signify public leadership. In his case, you must also go beyond this and read where Mercury is placed, the nakshatra ruler, which in his chart is in Swati. He has a background in the Air Force, the Royal Air Force, and Swati is directly linked to the Air Force. I leave that for you to find out. If you go back to the video I've posted in Swati, you'll understand why. Mars Jyestha also signifies a soldier, so I understand why that was his background. The king of pop, Michael Jackson, also has a strong Jyestha's influence. In his case, I find Jupiter, Rahu in Chitra, Venus in Ashlesha, which are symbolic of extraordinary creative ability. Venus Ashlesha in particular is the reason, in my view, behind his magnetic ability. Another great example is Enzo Ferrari. He has Saturn in Jyestha. This again is an indication of the individual occupying a position of a leader in one's domain. Slowly and steadily though, Saturn is in Jyestha. But Mercury is in Shravana. In the video I'll be posting on Shravana, I'll be explaining how Shravana is directly linked to car racing. I have already posted a blog on it if you're interested. So a planet's position in Jyestha explains the position the native might have as a leader, but the nakshatra ruler's position explains in which domain. Another example is Donald Trump. He has moon in Jyestha. So this symbolizes his natural desire to be in a position of a leader in the society. Furthermore, his rising is Magha, which I'd mentioned is all about achieving a position in the society based on one's family and family's name. Two great examples now from the entertainment sector are Al Pacino and Marlon Brando. They both have Jyestha's influence in their charts. Both these individuals played tough guy characters on screen, that is linked to Jyestha. Another great example is Alan Lee DeGeneres. She also has Saturn in Jyestha in her case. Mercury is in Purvashadha, which is linked to careers which are creative. Purvashadha's ruler is Venus, and Venus in her chart is in Shravana. Venus Shravana is directly linked to mass media. So you'll have to read the chart entirely to know fully in which domain are you going to find yourself being a leader. I hope these examples explain to you what Jyestha is all about. So the Jyestha native is likely to find oneself in a leader's position in the society. Look around you, business executives, C-level executives, to politicians, to bureaucrats, to military leaders, to the ones who are captaining their side in sports, to even trade union leaders or any other leaders that you see in the society. Leadership, therefore, is the first thing that would be visible in the native's personality. Now, depending on where Mercury and Mars are placed, the native can also be excessively competitive at times. If Mercury is less favorably placed, the native can get into arguments. If Mars is less favorably placed, the native can even get into a physical battle with people, or may have that side to one's personality that the native is willing to take on the fight, even on a physical plane. So a lot would also depend on the sign your rising falls in the Navamsha. So if it's the sign of Sagittarius, your personality also has Jupiter's qualities. So your leadership would be based on your knowledge and experience, like C-level executives planning the strategy for the business, for the future. So your eye is on the future, your thinking is driven by your philosophical understanding of the world. If it's the sign of Capricorn, there's more discipline and organizational skills associated with your way of doing things. If it's the sign of Aquarius, your work can be on a scientific plane and can even be more humanitarian in nature. So your leadership can be within those circles. If it's the sign of Pisces, I think your leadership would again be based on your knowledge and experience. Perhaps you'll have a higher philosophical understanding of things than any other sign. So here the purpose of leadership can be to help the society. The Satvik quality linked to Jyestha might be more visible. So Moon in Jyestha is an individual very inclined to occupy a position of a leader in the society. So everything the native is aspiring to do is centered around how to climb the ladder of success. Moon isn't known to share a great relationship with Mercury and Mars, and therefore the native can mentally torment oneself in pursuit of that goal. The native may delude oneself into thinking, if I reach that position I might find happiness or peace of mind. And that delusion the native would need to fight. I think the native would make an excellent strategic planner and a researcher. It's a combination of Mercury, Mars and Moon. So on a mental plane specifically, the native would know how to overcome one's enemies and how to find oneself in a position most advantageous. Moon has a nurturing side, and this nakshatra, due to Lord Indra, is about protection. So the native might do an excellent job in protecting others from a position of a leader, like someone in charge of public health, responsible for framing policy. The future can even be in medical research, as this nakshatra is behind inventions. Due to the difficult relationship Moon is sharing with the nakshatra and the sign ruler, the native may be prone to feeling envious of others. If someone has achieved or done something better than the native may find it difficult to accept. The native may also turn vindictive when challenged. Mind is very impressionable. Moon signifies that, and when challenged the native would take it the wrong way. So the native may not accept criticism very well. The native may become very combative when one is challenged in any way. The native is going to be driven by the materialistic pleasures of life, linked to Jyestha and linked to kingship, linked to leadership, linked to royalty. Moon signifies royalty, and Jyestha, as we know, is all about kingship. So together this can lead to the native aspiring to live a life full of luxury and comfort. But again, I think the native might delude oneself into thinking that this is going to lead to peace of mind. So I am finding Moon Jyestha to be not a very strong position, although the native can be behind inventions. The native may have a mind belonging to an innovator. That's my view. Sun Jyestha is all about leadership. Sun belongs to the caste of a Kshatriya. Kshatriyas are known to lead the society, to protect the society, and Jyestha is also all about that. Moreover, Sun shares an excellent relationship with Mercury and Mars. So this makes for a very strong position. If you find Sun and Jyestha having an influence in one of your career-related houses, or the first house linked to your personality, you would find yourself in a leader's position of some kind, particularly under the dasha of Sun. The generosity linked to Lord Indra would be prominent in your character. Sun is known for nobility, Sun is known for truthfulness. So together, people would see you as a leader, not only who is inspirational, but also someone they'd like to work for, as they would feel by working for a Sun Jyestha-like individual, they would be rewarded fairly based on merit, based on their credentials. Like trade unions, they elect a leader. They feel the leader is trustworthy. There are many negotiations to be had, and you want to trust someone who will make sure everyone's interest would be taken into account. And that is the confidence a Sun Jyestha-like native would inspire in people. That's my view. Sun is known to be an eradicator of diseases, and this nakshatra has a lot to do with inventions. So if Sun is in Jyestha and Mercury falls in a nakshatra linked to the healthcare sector, the native can find a future in medical research. Sun, however, doesn't respond well to competition challenging one's authority. Sun is known to get into ego battles, and that's exactly what I had mentioned about Lord Indra. So Sun Jyestha, like native, might have a very sensitive ego. If the native is challenged in one's professional life particularly, the native would become very defensive and would want to prove the other person wrong somehow, like we get to see political figures get into a debate. No, I think this is wrong, this is factually wrong. Based on my research, I found that to be true. So excessive competitiveness can be a downside to this position, and unnecessarily getting into competition with others is another downside. Other than that, I think the native would possess the extraordinary ability to defeat one's competition. No matter how difficult the competition is, the native would know how to win on a battlefield, whether the battlefield is in business sector or on the political front, or it's actually a war. A Sun Jyestha-like native knows how to win. If Mercury and Mars are better placed, the native can even be a leader on a spiritual plane, and in that case the native would be able to control the vindictive side linked to Jyestha better, and the native would largely be known for one's generosity and leading people on the right path. That's my view of Sun in Jyestha. A Mercury Jyestha-like individual would lead on the basis of one's intellect. The native may have ideas which are inspirational, highly innovative. So all leaders behind business innovation. Like the other day I was watching this video on mobile phones. A phone is now being designed having a battery which can be removed from the phone. So that is an invention. So individuals behind inventions of any kind. On a mental plane specifically, Mercury is all about fighting a battle on a mental plane. So strategy consultants, financial advisors, advertisers even. As an advertiser, you're fighting the battle with other companies. So the aspect of Jyestha linked to logical reasoning and strategic planning would be most visible when Mercury is there in Jyestha. Mercury here finds itself in the nakshatra, ruled by itself. So this position is very, very, very strong. And with Mars as a companion, the native can solve highly complicated problems. Mars and Mercury do not share an excellent relationship, so this position can lead to the native getting into arguments over ideas. If the native feels one's intellectual capacity is being challenged, the native would get into an argument to prove the other person wrong. And sometimes those arguments can be over a small issue. The native may be prone to taking action without taking into account all consequences of one's actions. Jyestha is having a no mercy policy, so the native might go all out, like completely annihilating one's opponents in the business sector, removing all the small players. We often hear stories that a big business has now taken over all small businesses. And in Jyestha, the native can be blinded by one's own business goals. So going to the extreme in competitions and not worrying about consequences is one of the major downsides of this position. Other than that, I feel the native can be behind scientific inventions. The native would be known as the most intelligent, I believe, and someone who has the ability to solve highly complicated problems. So if you channelize this energy in the right direction and let go of small issues, this can be a very, very strong position in my view. Venus in Jyestha, I don't think have a lot in common as love and leadership. If you draw a Venn diagram, I'm not sure there's going to be much in common there. Nonetheless, Venus Jyestha, like individual, firstly would like to be a dominant partner in a relationship and may also attract individuals in one's life who want to be a dominant partner. So the first thing is, in relationships there's always going to be a struggle. Who is the dominant partner? So this power struggle in one's personal life might affect one's relation with one's partner. And if this combination falls in one's career-related houses, the native may have this issue with relations the native might have with people at one's workspace. This position can lead to you having a future in finance research. I think you'll know how to outdo strategically your competition in the money world. The investments you would make based on your research and reason might end up being better or more rewarding than competition. So Venus Jyestha is in one of your career related houses, and let's say Mercury is in Purva Phalguni, this can lead to a career in investment banking. The most significant common thing Venus and Jyestha share is creativity, innovation. So Venus Jyestha, like individual, can be behind creations which leave others spellbound. They leave others not having an answer to your creation. Like an ad campaign which has left the competition with no answer. Like those very interesting ads we see from Volvo. So if Mercury, for example, is placed in Bharani in your chart alongside Venus in Jyestha, this can lead to you having a highly creative way of thinking. Your creativity would not only lie in originality linked to Bharani, but also in how you can gain advantage from your creativity, how your company can rise from that innovation. Venus signifies all desires on a material plane. Jyestha native is also known to be driven by materialistic pleasures. So Venus Jyestha like person can fall prey to wanting things which are luxury providing. The native may also want to explore one's personal life, want to be in more than one relationship over one's lifetime, and can even become addicted to sexuality, as Venus, Scorpio, Mars, Jyestha, all of this combined can lead to that. So altogether I find this position to be a mixed bag. If Mercury and Mars are not well placed, we'll see the native becoming very materialistic, and in personal life the native then becomes very vindictive when one is lied to or one is cheated on, for example. However, if Mercury and Mars is strongly placed, the native would know how to channelize Venus's creative energy better and how to manage relationships better. So a lot would depend on Mercury and Mars's position. Mars Jyestha is a strong position. I think leadership would be on the basis of your engineering skills, your technical ability. This is an excellent position for someone who aspires to be an innovator in whichever field. The native would be known to solve highly complicated problems. We are combining Mars and Mercury together. A strong Mars's position can be behind the native's interest in complex mathematics. Mercury is the planet of reason. So Mars-Mercury, like individual, can be a strategic planner, a problem solver, the best they can be. The native can also aspire to be an entrepreneur. Mars is behind entrepreneurship. The native would be not afraid to take chances. The native would be very risk inclined, and more often than not the native would succeed. Mars and Jyestha, both of them, are about defeating one's enemies, not only on the basis of one's technical skills or mental prowess, but also on the basis of their physical strength. Soldiers have this position. Earlier I had given you the example of King Charles, who served in the Royal Air Force. The native fighting spirit can make the native very popular. One of the major downsides would be that the native goes to the extreme in defeating one's enemies, and in the process the native may completely destroy one's opponents, and this can lead to the native not being an excellent team player. If the native isn't in a position of a leader, the native would continually challenge the leadership. The Tikshna, sharp, pinpointed nature of Jyestha would be seen in the native's character. The native can get into arguments quickly. Mars and Mercury here are coming together, and the demonic side would also be on display. If challenged, the native would do everything possible to prove the other person wrong. So yes, this position has many negatives, but there are many positives too. The native can be behind inventions, and the native's style of leadership and competitiveness can be quite inspirational. That's my view. I think Jupiter Jyestha firstly belongs to researchers, individuals who are honored in the society for their research, like a scientist being awarded the Nobel Prize. That is Jupiter Jyestha-like, and the battles fought in Jupiter's position in Jyestha are based on principle and based on philosophy. Not only philosophy, they can also be fought on different views two warring parties have on religion or even spirituality. So war fought here, the battles fought here rather, are not on a physical plane. It's a war of ideas, a war of philosophies, and a Jupiter Jyestha like native can be leading the charge. Battles, however, fought with this position would always remain within reason, and battles are likely to be for the welfare of the society, like fighting unequal distribution of wealth in the public sector. Public servants should be paid equally across different departments. If there is inequality there, then a Jupiter Jyestha-like native can be a union leader fighting for the rights of one's department. So fighting for equal rights, fighting against climate change or human rights abuse. So battles of that stature are linked to Jupiter Jyestha. The generosity associated with Jyestha would now be very prominent in the native's character. The native would be willing to share one's knowledge and wisdom with everyone, and the native may also control one's materialistic side much better than any other planet's position in Jyestha. So the Satvik quality linked to Jyestha would also be very prominent. You will genuinely believe a Jupiter Jyestha-like native is fighting for others, and this can even lead to the native having a career in law. I'd even include Mars in Jyestha having a career in law. Jupiter shares a good relationship with Mars and an okay relationship with Mercury. Therefore, I find this position to be a strong position, particularly if you'd like to build a future in research of some kind. You can be behind scientific inventions. Saturn Jyestha-like individual is ready for a long fight. Individuals who fight for many years to reach where they want to reach. I'd earlier given you the example of Enzo Ferrari, working on something for a long time to achieve success, to be the best at what one is doing. So the native is not going to give up on the battlefield, so to say, and that is going to be the native's greatest quality. I find Saturn sharing an excellent relationship with Mercury and an okay relationship with Mars, making this position altogether to be a strong position. Not only would the native find oneself in a leader's position, the native would handle leadership very responsibly, very maturely, and that together can lead to the native being an inspiration for people. We all want to be a leader, but very few have the capability to manage the responsibilities associated with it, and a Saturn Jyestha-like native would possess it. The native would be an excellent team player. The native would take into account the opinions of others. The native would also take everyone along in building something. The leadership style of a Saturn Jyestha-like native can be an inspiration, a lesson for everyone. Jyestha is all about creating things, and with Saturn there, the native can be extremely methodical behind one's creations. The native would look into every small detail and would be willing to perfect every small thing. Native is going to be technically very sound and would be known for one's resilience and long-term planning, strategic planning. Saturn, Mercury, Mars coming together leads to a very, very strong combination. You have resilience, you have logic, you have mental and physical stamina. So Saturn Jyestha-like native, in my view, is bound to succeed. Mercury's position has to be closely analyzed and the overall chart has to be analyzed, but I find this position so strong that eventually the native will find a way to succeed in life. One of the other qualities the native would possess is realism. The native would not be driven by short-term success, and the native would know what one stands to gain even after achieving something over a long time. The native would remain very practical, realistic, and very conservative too in one's estimates. Saturn Jyestha overall I find to be an excellent position. Saturn belongs to public services, and therefore the native can be behind designing something which is helping the society in some ways. If Mercury, for example, is in Shatabisha, the native can be designing something which is linked to medical research. So Mercury and Mars's position has to be analyzed, but I find this position, Saturn Jyestha, as a very strong position. Reliability, consistency are other qualities I find linked to this position. I think Rahu Jyestha is a difficult position. Those self-proclaimed leaders in the society could have Rahu Jyestha in their chart. Individuals who decide or portray themselves to be representing a group without having the confidence of the group. The native has this strong desire to be known in the society as a public leader, and the native is deluding oneself into thinking that by playing that role in the society I might find peace or I might be happy. And that delusion is what the native would need to fight. Other than that, Rahu Jyestha, like individual, can be behind inventions which change the future. The native would be a very smart business strategist. Why business? Jyestha is ruled by Mercury. Rahu knows how to run a business smartly, cleverly. This position can also lead to the native being obsessed with the idea of being a leader and may bypass tradition, may bypass the necessary effort and time required to achieve that position. The native may even resort to shortcuts and may want, somehow I should get myself in that position. The native may also resort to speaking ill of one's opponents, getting into those mud-slinging competitions, arguing with others unnecessarily just to prove a point. Things can go out of hand as the native might go to the extreme in achieving one's objectives. Once this delusion goes away, again, I think the greatest quality this position has is the power of creation, power of invention. Once the native channelizes one's intellect in the right direction, the native can be behind scientific inventions never seen before. So proper guidance would be necessary. A Ketu Jyestha-like native is fighting a battle secretly. So all individuals working or having a background in espionage can have this position. Individuals working in the defense forces planning a secret attack of some kind. Police officers in disguise protecting the society, Ketu Jyestha. These are examples of individuals who are responsible for protection, but secretly. The major downside is that with this protection, the native would go to the extreme. The native would not worry about the consequences of one's actions. The native would simply want to achieve the mission no matter what. The no mercy policy linked to Jyestha would be seen in the native's way of doing things, and that I'll also associate with Rahu in Jyestha. Interestingly, Ketu Jyestha, like individual, can see through things intuitively which others may not. So on a strategic plane, the native would be one of the best planners. I have, if I recall correctly, seen this position in financial analysts. Anyone working in investment banking would know it's a battlefield. You're trying to decipher how the markets are going to react and plan a strategy of investment better than your opponents. Ketu Jyestha like individual can see that. If Mercury, for example, falls in Rohini and you have Ketu in Jyestha, then a future can be in financial markets. Both Rahu and Ketu are prone to addictions, With Rahu, the addiction would be to be in a position of a leader. With Ketu, the addiction can be with substance abuse. I'd mentioned whilst describing Jyestha to you that Lord Indra, as per mythology, is known to rely on Soma, the nectar of immortality. So substance abuse can be a problem the native might have. And lastly, another quality I'd say linked to Ketu Jyestha is selflessness. Despite the native fighting a battle secretly, the native's intention would largely be not motivated by selfish desire. So this desire for leadership is not strongly linked to Ketu Jyestha. The native might be happy leading from behind. Both Rahu and Ketu are not very strong in Jyestha, but I think Ketu Jyestha is a better position than Rahu Jyestha. So this is it. I hope you found the information useful. If you have any questions, please post a comment in the comment section. And if you'd like to stay in touch, please subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.